Black Scully on check. Got a little Bull Rush T on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, we got quite a few things to talk about today. You guys want to get my AP poll top 25 reaction. Each and every week I've said that the college football season has gotten better. Though I was disappointed with some outcomes of the game, I think this week held its own, especially with Louisville beating Miami, and then we got UAB's upset over Memphis, Vandy handling business versus LSU, which I figured they would handle business versus LSU this past weekend. We got an awful lot to discuss today. Billy Napier was fired yesterday. I'm thinking about making 9 a.m. my new start time for lives. My apologies. I know I've been bouncing around a lot, but I do like this 9 a.m. time slot. I wake up early anyway. Might as well go ahead and knock it out. And I'm not sure if I want to go to a Sunday through Thursday, Monday through Friday. Haven't figured that quite out yet. But as I adjust to my schedule, we'll get that all figured out. But Billy Napier fired. I think it is rare, super rare for a team to, after they win a game, to decide to fire a coach. And why wasn't this decision made a week ago? So we'll talk more about that once we get into that segment. But I just thought it was really weird handling by Florida and Florida brass. They did this to this man last year. He survived. I had a theory. This is live too. I have a theory. It was on Overreaction Monday. Don't remember what week it was, but I said, why does he stay? And I understand he did an outstanding job recruiting, and every coach goes in there thinking, hey, we're going to win and we're going to continue to win. But I thought the way that he was treated last year, get out of there the way that Jeff Hafley get out of there. We'll talk more about that. Also, continuing on the topic, coaches on the hot seat. What coaches do you guys feel should have been fired and wasn't fired? Or coaches that, you lose your next game, you might be fired, and you got to go pull the old Jeff Hafley, as I like to call it, the old BC coach who, the brass pretty much let it be known they wanted him fired. He decided to win a bunch of games in a row. I think that was outstanding that he was able to do that. So, what coaches are on a hot seat? I think there are some that, come on now, what's going on here? Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Also, the week that was, we're going to kind of recap week 8 in a special style, kind of looking at the games that mattered most, but also how they affected the current standings in their conference and the overall landscape of college football. So we're going to look at that as well. Also, week 9 at a glance. So we're not going to do any previews today. We're just going to kind of look at week 9, kind of see what games are we looking at, what are the games that matter, and I look forward to previewing more games this week. Viewership is up on our channel, and I think the previews have a lot to do with it. I've seen a lot of people say, hey, I love the way that you do this. Hey, why don't you have more subscribers? So we're going to try to get more games done this week. Typically, I preview about 5 or 6 games every week. Some weeks I previewed a little more. This week, we're going to try to get that number up. 13, 14, or 15 previews this week. And I think we'll continue to see viewership on this channel. Also, not live on Twitter. Restream was bugging. That's the site that I use to use what's called an TMPS, something like that. And it pretty much sends it to 3 different. So I'm normally live on 3 different Twitters, but maybe this is an opportunity to go live exclusively on YouTube. So I'm not sure what that means, but I made sure that I did put on Twitter the link to what we're doing right here. And also, like I said, we talked about week 9 at a glance. We're going to get to our Into the News recap, the 5 games that mattered the most of me. A lot to talk about today. Hey, man, fasten your seatbelts. Governor of College Football, hashtag GoCFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
defensive
on
minds. They have to be better on that side of it. All right, into the news. We had something interesting happen this past weekend, and I thought that our college football community stood tall. They really stood tall. A lot of us were saying, hey, Memphis plays USF next week. There's no way in the world that College GameDay goes anywhere else but to see that matchup, a G5 matchup. And they will do this occasionally. We know that they're SEC heavy. It should be, SEC College GameDay. That's omitted probably 2 or 3 times a year. But other than that, they're mostly in SEC territories. And yes, there's a few great games this week. We got Texas A&M versus LSU in the SEC. Of course, we have, I believe, Vandy plays Missouri this week. So we have a lot of great games. But I thought that Memphis squandered a great opportunity for G5 to get some love. And G5 ball has been amazing this year. Make no mistake about it. G5 ball has been outstanding. Super impressed with, the American Conference. We saw BTA this weekend. Boise say, yeah, we're here. We're back on the national stage once again. They put hands and feet on Dan Mullen and company. So UAB upsetting Memphis. Moon and I talk about this a lot. We always say, hey, coaches matter, schemes matter. But it's typically the other way around. Schemes matter, coaches matter. And while the players matter and they're the ones who executing these plays on the field, a lot of times if you see players and systems that don't work, sometimes you'll say, oh, this player is struggling, without looking at the scheme and say, no, the scheme is struggling. So to see UAB with an interim coach and a backup quarterback to be able to beat the mighty, the powerful Memphis and the facet that they beat them in this weekend, it was absolutely outstanding to see. It really was outstanding to see, and that's why I continue to say that. Like a lot of times we look, I'm not a Jimmy and Joe's guy. Granted, we could go name for name. We can go bar for just naming random college football players. Yes, we could do that. But I'm more of an X's and O's and schemes guy. That's why whenever I do a preview, I'm talking more about the schemes and the matchups more than I'm talking about the players, because schemes matter 100%. So shout out to UAB and staff. We've seen this happen across the country. We saw it with Virginia Tech. They've lost a few games. But Philip Montgomery, his first 2 games, they got huge wins. And one of the games were against, I believe, was it NC State that they upset? Virginia Tech upset NC State. So when you think about it, you see UAB winning. UCLA is trending in the right direction. They've won 3 straight games since Coach Skipper became the head coach there. Systems matter, coaches matter. Sometimes the simplification of an offense works better because it allows your players to play faster. It allows defensively to play with more aggression. Also offensively on the offensive line to play with more aggression. So hats off to UAB and staff, and the fact that they were able to hold their own against a really good Memphis team really spoke volumes to me. It really did. I couldn't believe that they handled business in the way that they handled business. So shout out to UAB and their staff as my phone continues to ring nonstop. And the overall implications of what this game has done in the AAC is interesting. Navy has the outright first place because they're undefeated. Shout out to my dog D now. He called for it. He's like, yo, why isn't Navy in the top 25? And this is the thing I was saying about Louisville as well. Even when they lost to Virginia, I was upset, but all offseason I was praising Louisville. Minnesota, hands and feet on Nebraska this weekend, and it continues to show that PJ Fleck has one of these type of wins every year. Like, every year. And we have to stop crowning teams. We have to. I'm guilty of it too. I did it with Baylor this past offseason. We have to stop doing that. We really do, because it's interesting when every year, the past 2 years, I've seen people say, "Hey, Nebraska can go 11-1. Nebraska can go 10-2." Yo, stop doing that. Nebraska shouldn't even have beat Maryland a week ago. If we're being honest, we have to stop doing that. And I get it. Matt Rhule, year 3. Yes, he's been impressive year 3 everywhere he's been. But when I see these Nebraska teams, I saw issue dating back to their first game versus Cincinnati. And the way that they handle business versus this team, like Minnesota is just, they're just one of those teams. They're going to be there. A PJ Fleck coach team will always be aggressive and handle business. Louisville beating Miami. One of the stories of the week. And after this game and watching this game, I'm like, yo, Louisville's going to win this game. They jumped out to the 14-0 lead. They was playing outstanding defense. They picked off Carson Beck 4 times. Did see some vernacular and some verbiage on Twitter say, oh, here goes Carson Beck, reverting to his old ways and old self. And I get it. You've been watching him for a while. You saw some of the mistakes that was made at Georgia, especially his last season in Georgia, and then you kind of try to put that parallel together. I believe that their offense has been so big play oriented that a lot of those plays, there were some bad interceptions there, but some of those plays were shot plays that they just hit on earlier in the season. So some of them could have been deemed 50-50 balls where the defense just made outstanding plays, and sometimes that happened. And I think at least 3 of those interceptions, it was just outstanding individual plays, I believe Jeff Brohm came in there, the attention to detail, the ability to have an idle week after losing to UVA. There are some coaches, I think, that pamper their quarterbacks too much. There was a situation where Miller Moss almost threw an interception. Almost. And he said, what the F are you doing? That accountability, that ability to just be honest with you. You also gave it to an assistant coach on the sideline that day. That's what you expect from a Jeff Brohm guy. I've always said this. He's no nonsense. Like, I have an example. We go to ACC Media Days every year. And Jalen, before he asks a question, like me, Moon, the rest of us, we just ask our question. Like, Jalen is very polite. Hey, how you doing, coach? How's everything going? And every coach saying, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Jalen asks Jeff Brohm, and Jeff Brohm stares at him. Just 100% blank. And that's what you're going to get from a guy like Jeff Brohm. But I thought it was interesting, and I'm going to kind of go to a parallel here, and I'm going to get to a point here as well. So, remember last week, we saw a game, Missouri versus Alabama, a game where Alabama possessed the ball almost 2-1. It was 38 minutes to 21 minutes. And there were times you could see it on Bo Perbula's face that he was bugging, like he was in his head. He was like talking to himself, pacing on the sideline. I thought it was an outstanding opportunity for Eli Drinkowitz to like really give it to him. Like, dude, we went and got you out of the portal. We gave you money. Like, that was a great opportunity to hype him up. Really great opportunity to hype him up, curse him out, whatever you need to do to get your quarterback together. And they just let him on the sideline just kind of just pace and be inside of his head. You could see it watching the game, so I know the people who were there, I believe Josh Pate was there, probably saw it as well. Like, dog, like, somebody go talk to him and get him together. That's all that they had to do, to be completely transparent with you, and that did not happen. And that is extremely frustrating that did not happen. Like, great opportunity to do it, and I wanted to compare it to that because of this Louisville situation. I just realized I put too many L's in Louisville. Can't stand Canva sometimes. But they upset the U. Outstanding victory for Louisville. This should bode well for them. And it makes me even more upset about the UVA game because they got out Louisville in that game. But I look at Louisville. I look at what they were able to do a couple of years ago, making the ACC championship. I look at them now. I do trust Miller Moss more than I trust Tyler Shuck. Everybody knows that. More than I trust Jack Plummer, was it? The kid that they got from Cal a few seasons ago. Both of which are in the NFL, by the way. So that shows you what Jeff Brohm is doing as a head coach. But it's his attention to detail. He's a disciplinarian. We don't have a lot of them left. When I say an old school coach in college football, a lot of you guys will probably look at age and look at how somebody handles and orients business. Jeff Brohm is one of the last old school guys left. Shout out to Louisville. Great job. Great performance. Thoroughly enjoyed that game. Kept me on the edge of my seat. Even after the Isaac Brown fumble, I was pissed off. I got to say this. I said it offline. I'm going to say it online. I said that Louisville has one of the best running back rooms in the country. Isaac Brown is a stud. Duke Watson, I think, has been injured. He just hasn't looked well this year after averaging 10 yards per game a season ago. But I was frustrated with Isaac Brown because he fumbled the ball. He was injured. I never question injuries in football. I'm not that guy. I would never be that guy. And the reason being is because it's a sport with 100% injury. At some point during the season, you're going to have something ailing. I mean, even down to like the peewee or school level, like you're going to have an injury. There wasn't a season when I played that I wasn't dealing with something. It's just the way that football works. But Isaac Brown, after he fumbled, went to the sideline. I guess he was dealing with something. And for a possession that they really needed him on, he wasn't in, but he came in for victory formation, which was weird to me. I don't know. Vandy upsets LSU, and I don't deem it as an upset, and I don't think Vandy deemed it as an upset. They didn't even storm the field. This was a game that if you've been paying attention, you expected to win. I knew Vandy would be able to put up some points against LSU, and that's just really the Diego Pavia effect. But also, I knew that LSU would struggle to put up points. Finally, they scored over 20 points against a Power 4 team. They hadn't done that all season. So, great game, great call game. Clark Lee continues to impress me, and I know he's Vandy through and through. Him and the gentleman that's the general manager there are both Vandy through and through. They were the only Vandy fans out of their friend group. I think it was impressive even seeing all of that to begin with on SEC football any given Saturday. I thought that was outstanding to be able to hear them and hear that conversation. Truly, truly excellent ball talk, listening to them talk. I'm just not sure how Vandy can keep them. I don't remember not if they extended them last year, but they need to do it quickly. They need to do what that team in Bloomington did, where they said, hold up, This Kirk Cincinnati guy special. Let's extend him. Well, dang, he's really special. Let's go ahead and extend him again. And he's just sitting there looking, and he expects this. Like, this is not something that he didn't expect. He 100% expected this success. And shout out to him. Truly amazing to see Vandy handle business. And Nussmeier made some plays that game that when people say, hey, he should probably be the first quarterback taken on the board. Now, I know Fernando Mendoza has moved to that spot in a lot of people's minds. But that ability to evade pressure, kind of spin out of it, throw a ball, and, of course, it was the catch. And then the wide receiver went for a touchdown after that, went about 80 yards. He got nailed, bro, and he's laying, and he kind of looks up. And he's confused because he's like, yo, what just happened here? So, outstanding play. That's when people say, okay, Garrett Nussmeier, he's made some plays this year. And I know a lot of people want Joe Sloan gone in Baton Rouge. When do we start looking at Brian Kelly? Like, before the season, you could look at LSU roster and say this is probably the most talented roster in college football. I thought it was Penn State or Clemson, but LSU was right there in the thick of things. And the fact that we're seeing some of the same old issues, you look at the players that they have offensively, and this is why I always say schemes matter. Because you put these players in a different scheme, maybe in Lane Kiffin's system, they all eat. Everybody eats 100%. So I'm disappointed in LSU, and I wonder if they're just going to accept mediocrity with Brian Kelly, because that's where I'm at. I was that before the season started. Everybody who watched this show or watched me on Overreaction Monday knew that that's where I was at before the season. Didn't trust him. I still don't trust Mario Cristobal. And those are just things that I stick with. There's things I think every person in the media or every college football fan feels. Like, there was a guy who I was having a healthy debate with on Twitter. He said, yo, I just don't trust Baylor quarterbacks. Got it. Understood. Well, I don't trust Mario Cristobal. I don't trust Brian Kelly. Those are two things that have stuck with me, and both coaches have had an immense amount of success. At the end of the day, it's just a thing. Everybody has a thing or ick about college football, and those are mine. That I just don't trust them. It is what it is. UGA defeats Ole Miss. This game was spectacular. Jalen and I have this Pete Golding insider. Like, we always, Pete Golding, we always laugh. Like, no matter what, they have outstanding players. Pete Golding. That's just what Jalen's response always is. I remember, but dog, they got Walter Nolan, Pete Golding. they got Princely Humanor. I don't even know how you say his name. Human Meelan or something like that. He's Pete Golding. Like, that's just the thing with me and Jalen. Like, it's always been a Pete Golding joke. And to see Ole Miss offense execute the way that it executed this game, I don't believe it was like the first, 4 drives? They didn't punt the ball? That's outstanding. And this is similar to the Tennessee game. Georgia has a lot of ways to beat people. They can beat people with a lead and playing physically. We've seen them have the ability to come from behind. They did it against Auburn. They also did it in this game versus Ole Miss. Is times I'm like, okay, Ole Miss locked this up. Ole Miss is the team that I think that they are. And Trinidad Shambliss is for real. And UGA, Gunnar Stockton, love them or hate them. We all got an ick when it comes to Gunnar Stockton. We like, I just don't know. Great name. I just don't know. But this is twice we've seen him in a game, in a shootout versus Tennessee. They handle business, come back win. In a game versus Ole Miss, come back and win. That offense was clicking on all cylinders. And for everybody who has a Mike Bobo problem, execution was your problem last week versus Auburn. That's what it was. It wasn't his play calling. It was execution. And the fact that these players executed the way that they executed, the cannibalization, this is something we've all discussed at some point. We've all discussed that the cannibalization in the SEC is real. And this is kind of the pinnacle of that. Oh, yeah, we're about to be in for a ride. Texas A&M, you guys look phenomenal. You guys also have the ability to win grinded out games, to win games where, your defense is leading, to win games. So your offense got to put up a bunch of points. So I really like what they're doing down there in College Station. But you guys won't be immune to a loss this year. You will lose. It's coming. Not that I'm wishing it for, because if you ask me who the best team in college football is, who's the team that I trust heading into the playoffs, my answers will probably be Ole Miss or Texas A&M. No disrespect to Ohio State, who's playing outstanding and whose defense is playing outstanding. I believe their time is coming. And I have a what if for you. What if I told you that this weekend that Ohio State may be upset by Penn State? And I don't think everybody on X will be ready for that. On Facebook, Instagram, social media wouldn't even be ready for that. And as great as the job Ryan Day has done, we will still see fire Ryan Day if that happened this upcoming weekend. I think Penn State played themselves this weekend with their 2-quarterback system, but I'm telling you, more upsets are on the horizon. That's just the way that this season has gone. More upsets are definitely on the horizon. Let's start into the news segment. Let's move right along and get into our segment number 1, which is my reaction to the AP Top 25. All right, we got the AP Top 25. We'll go 25-1. We got Michigan at 25, Arizona State at 24, Illinois at 23, Texas at 22, Cincy at 21. We got LSU at 20, 19 Louisville. Louisville should have been in the top 25. This is my beef with the AP poll. Do you watch college football or do you just skim through it? That is my question to everybody, week in and week out. Do you watch college football or do you skim through it? Or Tuesday night games or Monday night games when college football happen time to time when Liberty decides to play a game on Monday night, are they as interesting as a game on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays or Saturdays, right? What about Wednesday night games when action is taking care of us, or the Fun Belt is taking care of us, or the Con USA is taking care of us? Do you watch college football or do you just skim through it? Why in the hell Louisville hasn't been in the top 25 before the UVA loss? I just don't understand. If you look at Jeff Brohm teams, if you look at their ability to compete, somebody should have seen the writing on the wall that they have an opportunity to upset Miami, and they came in with a game plan. They knew how they was going to frustrate Carson Beck. Check. They was able to do that. They knew how they was going to move the ball, whether it was trick plays. We saw the fake field goal that they ran, and they ran into execution. Why haven't people seen this? I've been talking about Louisville all off season. You can go back to the archives. Everything's documented. I've talked about Louisville all off season. I even did a breakdown of Louisville, if I'm not mistaken, and how great their team was and what I thought they could do this year. I believe I had them going like 10-2 or 11-1. I just didn't think this college football season would be as dramatic as it has been, to be completely transparent with you. But why wasn't Louisville in the top 25? Cincy at 21. Cincy is surging, boy. I did not have that. They're a few plays away against Nebraska from being undefeated. Did not have Scott Satterfield and Coach of the Year in the same sentence on my 2025 college football bingo card. I just didn't. I didn't. LSU at 20. I don't know, bro. I don't think LSU is a top 20 team. I don't. I think we all look on paper and say it, but as far as execution, no. No. I know they only got 2 losses, but as far as execution, no. Louisville at 19 just went on a whole rant about them. Why is USC out of the top 25? To me, they beat themselves this past weekend. Look at Riley, for as much credit as I gave him this past weekend. I mean, before this game this weekend, I didn't expect him to try to call a double reverse pass, bro. Like, what was that? I mean, a reverse pass. Like, what was that? In the rain, dog? Like, what was that? Like, and as a guy who was rooting for USC, because I believe USC is a damn good team, and I believe that Lincoln Riley is a damn good coach, what was that, bro? They ain't in my area playbook, tell you that. USF at 18, showdown this upcoming weekend. Tennessee at 17. The love for the SEC still reigns supreme. UVA is just winning ball games. They're just winning ball games. Shout out to Tony Elliott, bro. They just winning ball games. They're at 16. 15, Missouri. Don't think for 1 minute that Mizzou can't win the SEC. I know they lost the game to Bama. I know that Ahmad Hardy hasn't done much the last 2 weeks. But this team is still a team with supreme balance. I still trust their defense. It's just the defense is on the field a lot versus Alabama. You're not going to win games like that. Texas Tech at 14. Surprise of the week for me. It wasn't a Miami game. It was Texas Tech losing to Arizona State, because I've seen Jekyll and Hyde acts from both teams. A team that I praised for supreme discipline defensively was undisciplined defensively. I don't know. Oh, Oklahoma, great comeback victory. Not comeback, but I mean bounce back victory is probably better vernacular. The bounce back victory that they had, you know, after losing the Red River rivalry to Texas and had the inability to score points, but they did to South Carolina. Shane Beamer, I think you're an outstanding coach. I think you play with a great deal of passion. Your family is super dope. At some point, you're going to have to make a move at offensive coordinator. It's the only thing that makes sense, I think, in anyone's mind. You have to make a move, brother. You have to. Or you may be losing your job, and maybe Virginia Tech is an option for you. But it's not. That watching that offense, as explosive as that offense should be, and things aren't working, that's why we continue to say what, ladies and gentlemen? That's why we continue to say that schemes matters over players. It just does. You can have a player that fits your scheme, but if your scheme isn't executing, that's a problem. Notre Dame at number 12. There was a point in time this year I believe that Notre Dame wouldn't be making the playoffs. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, granted, C.J. Carr didn't play outstanding this week, but they had Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price say, hold my beer, we got it. They put that cape on this weekend. BYU continues to impress. I think this was a game a lot of people thought Utah would win this game. I'm in a pick 'em league with other creators. I had BYU winning just everything I saw. I said, hey, if they could play with a great deal of discipline the way Texas Tech played Utah and hold Billy Napier to a mediocre night running the ball, force him to beat you from the pocket, you have an opportunity to win the game. Vanderbilt just continues to impress. I think a lot of us thought, all right, they have a difficult schedule this year. We looked at last year and said, oh, it's a great story. That's cute, but let's get back to it. But Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, I love their running back, Cedric Alexander. He's real deal. You know, Eli Stowers at tight end. You just look at this team. You see playmakers out there, and they trust their quarterback. And their quarterback puts it on the line each and every play. Not each and every game. Each and every play, he's willing to put it on the line. Outstanding win this weekend. Seeing your fans not storming the field versus LSU victory tells me that was an expected victory. You guys expected to win that game, and it's business as usual. That is scary. Vandy can absolutely win the SEC. And I know you guys are looking at me like, that's crazy. They can. And guess what? Diego Pavia told you they can. And guess what? Diego Pavia also told you that they'll be the best team in the great state of Tennessee. He's held his end of the bargain so far this year. A few plays away. I know the score didn't indicate it. They were a few plays away. If they didn't turn the ball over twice in the red zone, they had opportunities versus Alabama. And I know Diego Pavia wanted those back. And I'm glad they had an idle week before they played LSU. They handled business. Miami Hurricanes, number 9. BYU is undefeated, and we don't have them in the top 10. Like, something is wrong with that, in my opinion. Like, what are we doing as voters? I know that this sport is heavy SEC, right? I get it. And great teams in the SEC, and we have the P word in the SEC, and I thought that would never happen with having a great deal of parity in the SEC, but that's where we're at in this sport of college football that we love so much. We have a great deal of parity, and it's amazing to see, but it's not just in the SEC, it's all conferences. I know the Big Ten seems like a two-horse race, but if you look at the middle class of the Big Ten, you see really good teams, and Minnesota is one of those teams. I believe USC is one of those teams as well. We have parity in the American, great deal of parity. Mountain West, we're starting to get parity with Boise State handling business this weekend. College football is amazing. You want to talk parity? The purest parity conference in college football, say that 5 times fast, it's the MAC. It's just jumbled up. Teams with 3 losses and 4 losses. It's absolutely jumbled up. It's crazy to see. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I believe in the Week That Was segment that we'll be talking about that. And so BYU, Vandy at number 10, Hurricanes at number 9. They should have fell a little bit more because that game wasn't as close as the score indicated. Ole Miss. I'm so frustrated because Lane Kiffin was prepared to win that game. He just needed Pete Golding to get 1 or 2 stops. That did not happen. And Ole Miss is trending in the right direction. Ole Miss, I know it's like the 3rd or 4th team I said they can win the SEC. It's a legit 6 teams that can win the SEC. And you guys might not be ready to deal with that information, but do with it what you want, because we're going to see more upsets this season. I promise you that. Georgia Tech, my apologies. Moon also sends his regards as well, because he was at the Virginia Tech game. Wasn't impressed with that victory, but this Duke victory might have been one of the most impressive victories over this entire weekend. Great job. Great win, Georgia Tech. That, you know how we always said Beamer ball, and we're really talking about his paw. We're not talking about Shane. We're talking about Frank Beamer. They will win the game defensively. They will win a special team. Sometimes the offense will go off. I think we are in that mode where we can say Brent Keyball, right? Like, because they continue to win games. The way that they won that Duke game, played outstanding defense. Haynes King put the cape on when it was time to put the cape on. Georgia Tech is the best team in the ACC. I think we can all say that comfortably. And a lot of you are like, well, I'm not impressed. They play ugly. I still think Miami is the best team in the ACC. Well, you don't know Mario Cristobal now, do you? That's all I'll say about that. Well, Georgia Tech is the best team in the ACC. No running for that. I think Louisville is surging. There's some other really good teams in the ACC as well. SMU is surging. I thought they'll have a sophomore slump, but look at here, they're 5-2, and they're trending in the right direction, and they have been there and done that. And Kevin Jennings was hurt this weekend and played outstanding. Shout out to my dog, Rebel Visions, our director, Mike, huge SMU fan, and he wants an SMU and Georgia Tech ACC championship. And trust you, we will all be in attendance for that. I guarantee that. Oregon at number 6, handle business. Tough loss last week, came in here and handled business this week. Georgia, I can't say enough good things about Georgia. When I look at a team, it's how many different ways can you win a game? Can you take over a game defensively? I think we saw that in the second half versus Kentucky. Can you win in the shootout? We saw that in the game versus Tennessee. Can you win with some adversity? We saw that. Like, they could not get stops. Like, I'm like, is this a Glenn Schumann defense or nah? They could not get stops versus this team. And they've been able to win a game versus adversity. Can you play the time of possession game, right? How many different ways can you win a game? And that's how I evaluate teams. Do you have more than one way to win a game? That's what I like. Ty Simpson in Alabama. Somebody said this, I'm not sure who. They said this team is starting to look like a Nick Saban team. Yeah. Great quote, great take. I agree with it 100%. This Alabama team is dangerous. And right now, I know a lot of people had Ruben Bain. He was like the sexy pick or the popular pick for Heisman. Ty Simpson should be the Heisman at this moment. And Gunnar Stockton has entered that conversation as well. I know a lot of you all don't want to hear that, but he has. And Diego Pavia should be a dark horse as well. And it won't be statistically, but what he's doing for this great city of Nashville is just outstanding right now. Texas A&M is at number 3. For my money, they're the best team in the country right now. Ohio State has just dominated everybody. They need some adversity, and adversity is coming. And I'm telling you, it might come this weekend against Penn State. I know you guys think I'm joking or I'm smoking or I'm tripping. That's just the way that college football works. And I'm telling you, you all aren't ready. Listen, Ohio State loses to Penn State this weekend. I don't care what I'm doing. I'm stopping what I'm doing. I'm just on Twitter hitting refresh. I'm going to search Ohio State and hit refresh every 2 seconds. I'm telling you. Ohio State meltdowns, bro, other than when Scott Frost was at Nebraska and those meltdowns, they're some of the best meltdowns because their fan base don't care, bro. They really carry that mantra of what have you done for me lately? They really do carry that mantra, and they get really upset when these things happen. So Texas A&M best team in the country right now. But they will be dealt with some adversity. The way that the SEC landscape shapes now, they will probably end up losing the game at some point. I just deem that. Indiana looks really good. And I mean really good. They can certainly win the Big Ten. And I think the Big Ten may be I guess we could say a 3-team race, but I think it's a 2-team race. I think Indiana or Ohio State. I think they're both on a collision course in Big Ten. Top 2 teams in the country. And Ohio State has pretty much held that spot the entire year. And shout out to them. Shout out to the coaching staff because they replaced offensive and defensive coordinators. And Brian Hartline and Matt Patricia's just come in there and done their job. I'm not mad at this AP poll at all. I still believe USC should be in the top 25. I say they are more deserving over Michigan being in the top 25 because they beat Michigan head-to-head. And Navy should be in the top 25 as well. So Cincinnati, for my money, should be a little bit higher. Louisville is not a surprise, but they should have been here. That's just where I'm at with the AP poll. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Billy Napier. All right, so this Billy Napier situation, I think everybody kind of saw this coming. The one thing about Florida is they show their hand. It's not something that they hide from the world. They're just not going to do that. They're not going to hide how they feel from the world. And I don't know. I think that this was one of the most disappointing outcomes I remember in recent history of college football. I think it's an absolute embarrassment that this guy was fired after a win. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, in my mind, if you're going to fire somebody, all right, fire them. Like, fire them after the loss to Texas A&M, but firing them in a win is stupid to me. Like, it just doesn't make much sense at all. Like, I get it. He's underwhelmed, one of the most underwhelming coaches in recent memory at Florida. Like, then you go back and you think about Dan Mullen and how he got limited opportunities during his tenure in Gainesville. So for me, if I'm a coach, and yes, the resources in Gainesville are plentiful, they're willing to spend the money. No matter who you have at head coach, you're going to have the ability to recruit well because a lot of people want to come and play for the Gators and they want to see what their life like is playing in the swamp. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to, before I even consider about how you may treat me, how did you treat other people? How did you treat other head coaches? What was your treatment of Dan Mullen like? Like, I will give Billy Napier a call and say, yo, How did they treat you there? Right? Because he won a game against Mississippi State and the fan base was saying fire Napier. I'm sure that helped the case, but you fired him after a win. That's weird to me. Why didn't you fire him last week? Like, Scott Strickland, like, what was your thought process on this? Why didn't you fire him last week after the loss to a damn good team in Texas A&M? You wait to fire him against Mississippi State after a win. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, yes, the Billy Napier era is certainly over in Florida, and he'll walk away with, I think, $21 million, $9 million of which is due within the next 30 days. And Billy Gonzalez will step in as their interim coach. It's just, for me, I don't think people understand the after effect. Billy Napier isn't going to stop coaching. Billy Napier will probably get a head coaching job. You know, with all of the vacancies we have across America, may not be a job that he wants, but he'll certainly get a job. But, you know, I think sometimes we don't think about the families. Like, they probably enjoyed their time in Gainesville. And if he has younger kids, like, they're still in school. They'll probably have to go to a new school. And granted, college football is a result-oriented business, which means you don't get paid for hard work. Did outstanding job recruiting. Can we see 2022 Texas A&M from this? Can we see a mass exodus from them? From this? Because a lot of these players, and I think this is the true reason why they held on to Billy Napier, because a lot of these players probably stayed because of Billy Napier and his ability to recruit. What does that look like after that, right? So, I don't know. He's been underwhelming, though. Like, make no mistake about it. He's been really underwhelming. I think last year, the way he finished the year, I think people felt like, hey, this thing is steering in the right direction. Let's give Napier time. But his 4-year run ended at 22 wins and 23 losses. You don't do that at Florida. You don't do that with the resources there. And a lot of these times, in a lot of these games, they had opportunity to win games, but bad time management, mental mistakes were the reasons that they lost some of these games. And at Florida, they just expect more. They 100% expect more. And while he's recruited well, and I think they'll lose some of those players that he's recruited, just the way that college football worked, that came here for them. Hey, who was our second choice team? Who was our third choice team? You start to go on visits. It'll be interesting to see where DJ Lagway ends up. I think Billy Napier was a little bit too friendly with DJ Lagway, but maybe that's the way that he learns. I think Lagway needs to go to a coach that's going to hold him super accountable. I would love to see him at Louisville next year. But can he deal with a coach like that? You know, like Jeff Brohm, who's going to cuss him out when he does stuff he shouldn't be doing. And I think it's needed. Like, you're not going to turn the ball over 5 times with Brohm because he ain't going to give you more than 2 or 3. It just is what it is. So as we looked at the record, we look at how much money he walked away with, and all of these things are always public knowledge. And I think it's always great talking points for when you enter the discussion about a coach being fired. But now you start to look at, what does that mean for the remainder of the season? What type of showing is this for your future head coach? Like, dog, you fired me after I won a game. That's a bad showing. And then we started to look at who are some of the candidates that we're looking at, right? So since 2010, this is the 4th Florida head coach that's been fired before completing a 4th full season. This is the 4th time that this has happened since 2010. So 4 coaches fired before the season was over during their 4th season. If I'm a coach, I don't care how talented I am. I don't care how great of a coach I am. That's something that I think about, right? Let's think about some of the candidates that we've been hearing about. And I'll tell you a couple of fits that I think that are good fits. Eli Drinkowitz has been outstanding. I think his record is like 26-6 since 2023. And, you know, he's getting about 9 per year. And I'm not sure, even though the resources in Gainesville are more plentiful than the resources in Columbia, I'm just not sure why he would leave for that job. Now, there's other jobs I think he should consider. And like I said, the resources are plentiful there. And if he can go there and win, yes, you can make more money. It's one of those towns that are just great for college football. But I'm not sure why he would leave where he's at for that job. Maybe for another job. Maybe he leaves for Penn State. And the resources aren't as plentiful in Happy Valley as they are in Gainesville. But do you trust Strickland as your athletic director? I wouldn't. I'm just being real. Jed Fish, Washington. This is certainly a progressive move, and Jed Fish will certainly make the move. He took no time leaving Arizona, where I thought was a good fit for him. Went to Washington. If he's offered the Gainesville job, he's taking it. James Franklin just was fired. He wins a lot of games. He recruits really well. He could definitely go in there and fit in there. Now, are you comfortable with almost getting there? Like that James, we almost had a Franklin mantra. And he, said it this weekend on College GameDay. He expects to be coaching expeditiously. So, yes, will they take a flyer on him? Probably. Alex Golish, you've seen this guy come into your stadium and leave with a victory. This is a guy who's doing an outstanding job as a head coach right now for USF. I could certainly see it. Lane Kiffin would certainly leave, and I trust the sources of this. He would definitely leave if they offered him the job. And that would probably be the best hire you could have, because what we've seen him do with the teams that he's had recently there, his ability to develop quarterbacks has been outstanding as well. Like, why wouldn't you take him? Like, look what Trinidad Shambliss is doing right now. He still got Austin Simmons. Austin Simmons may even follow him there. Lane Kiffin would definitely leave, but we said that before when the Auburn job opened up. We're like, yeah, Lane Kiffin is definitely going there, and then he absolutely owned the reporter. And he decided, and he announced that he was staying in Oxford. I don't know. They love him in Oxford, but it'll be interesting to find out exactly what Lane Kiffin is thinking right now. But he'll be a hot commodity for a lot of jobs. But like when you start to look at the lineage of quarterbacks and the success that they had, look at Trinidad Shambliss. We've seen success. Austin Simmons hasn't played a lot, but we have seen some success. Jackson Dart before him, we saw a lot of success. A lot of us didn't think Jackson Dart was that good, but Lane Kiffin showed you otherwise. This is why schemes are important. This is why they matter. This is why coaches are important. We see a guy right now, Zachariah Branch, who's having the time of his life, down in Athens. But in SoCal, they just couldn't get it right for him. So this is why they matter. And then before Jackson Dart, it was Matt Corral. A lot of people forgot about Matt Corral. But with Matt Corral, they were top 15 in rushing offense and passing offense. You had a great deal of balance. So I look at what Lane Kiffin has been able to do. I mean, even when he was down at FAU for a year, the success that they had there and the success he had before that, you start looking at Lane Kiffin. This is that slam dunk hire. I think it's a slam dunk hire if Penn State is able to get Lane Kiffin. It's a slam dunk hire if Gainesville get him. But if he go to Gainesville, look out, because they're going to compete instantly at the highest level. He's going to be able to get recruits via the transfer portal. And guess what? Some of that mass exodus I'm talking about, if they're able to get Lane Kiffin, some of them dudes stay. But guess what? He's coming with luggage like Deion said. He's coming with his own luggage. Best believe that. And he's got a kid at quarterback. And even if DJ Lagway's staying, it's going to be an open competition between Austin Simmons and DJ Lagway. So Lane Kiffin for me would be the slam dunk hire. For me, Glenn Schulman, Georgia defensive coordinator, it's his time. It's his time. And this upcoming coaches carousel is about to be amazing. Better than anything that you could think of during any of your college football and before the NCAA 14 dynasties. This coaching carousel is about to be amazing. Josh Summerall is another guy from Tulane, and all he does is win. Did it at Troy. He's doing it now in the Big Easy with Tulane. I don't know. I don't think they'll take a flyer on somebody like John Gruden. I know John Gruden said he'll die to coach in the SEC, but maybe a job like Arkansas will take him. But for me, the guy to go get, this is for both Penn State. This is for Florida, but I think he will choose Florida because the resources are more plentiful in Gainesville than Happy Valley. But Lane Kiffin is the coach to go get. I think Dan Lannon ain't going nowhere. The resources are more plentiful in Eugene than there are in everywhere else. Why? Because they got Phil Knight backing them. The resources in Eugene are plentiful. He ain't going nowhere. Kirby ain't going nowhere. You think he might go on. And Miss Terry said something so profound this weekend. She said, while she believes Saban could coach and win another championship, she said they're having too much fun, and Kirby and Lane Kiffin deserve, those opportunities. I don't think Kirby leaves Georgia. He played college ball at Georgia. He's at the school he wants to be at. So Lane Kiffin is a slam dunk hire. For any of you guys with an opening, the only ones he'll consider is Penn State or Florida. I think it's Florida over everybody else if he does leave. But things are working in Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been willing to spend money. They have gotten active in the portal these last two portal seasons. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Lane Kiffin. But for my money, I will bet Lane Kiffin ends at another job, and that job end up being Florida. But he'll need some promises, and he'll need to be able to run things the way that he wants to run things. That's the only way it'll work. So, not bad. Some decent guys that they have to offer. They have the ability to offer too, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. But speaking of which, Billy Napier was just fired. Let's talk about other coaches who are on the hot seat. Let's get to our hot seat segment. So things are heating up in college football, and college football is what? It's a what have you done for me lately sports, and it's a result-driven business. It's the highest result-driven business because it's not like the NFL. You can be mediocre in the NFL, still make the playoffs, and people deem it a good year. Same thing with baseball. You play 162 games. You can lose. We ain't even have a 100-game winner this past season in baseball. You can lose a lot and be successful. Same thing with the NBA. Same thing in college basketball. But guess what with college basketball? You can have a terrible regular season when your tournament like NC State did a couple of seasons ago. And guess what? You have made it to the dance, right? That's the way college basketball works. College football is not that. It's not that at all. College football is the biggest, the highest result-driven business in the world because it is a what have you done for me lately. The success you had last year had nothing to do if you're not successful this year. That is college football in a nutshell. That is absolutely college football in a nutshell. So let's look at some of these coaches on the hot seat, and I'm going to be really honest with them. If I feel like they need to go, they need to go. Luke Fickell, you need to go. But I blame the brass in Madison, the brass at Wisconsin. I get it. They wanted to show him a bill of faith. Like, hey, we believe in you. They extended them early. So they only shot themselves in the foot when they extended them early. It was super stupid of them. And, yeah, Luke Fickell got to go. I thought it was an outstanding hire. I'm like, he's a great culture builder. I didn't expect him to go to the air raid now. I didn't expect that. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But he got to go. Mike Norvell got to go. This team was one of the highest talked about teams in the country 4 weeks ago. He's got to go, bro. 4 straight losses, he got to go. He's got to go. I don't know why he's got to go. Hugh Freeze got to go. He's been got to go. Dude, with the roster and the talent that they have, the way that roster was constructed, we looked at it on paper and say Auburn has a chance to compete in the SEC. Not just go bowl eligible. I don't even think they'll go bowling this year. That's crazy to me. I don't think they'll go bowling. Who I trust more to go bowling between Auburn and Mississippi State? I take Mississippi State every day of the week and twice on Saturdays to go bowling before Auburn goes bowling. I do not trust Hugh Freeze. At all. At all. Has he recruited well? Yeah, but you're supposed to recruit well in the SEC. And then if that job opens up again, I'm not sure who takes it. They certainly have Major Applewhite. Things have gone south in South Alabama. Do I think he should be fired? No. Brian Kelly, if they cool with mediocre coaches in LSU, they cool with that, then cool. Like, he's on pace for another 8-4. Y'all cool with that? Okay. Bill O'Brien, I know you only been there 2 years. You got to go. 6 straight losses. Y'all didn't even credential my boy Nino, who's been covering you guys exclusively for the last few years. And I know Nino not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. It's disrespectful. He's covered you guys exclusively. He's dedicated an entire show to you guys, an entire series to you guys. He talks you guys up in the offseason. Oh, we have too many people. What? What are you talking about? Yeah. Bill O'Brien, you got to go. Bill Belichick, you got to go. Yeah, you Ben should have gone. Yeah, get him out of college football. You got to go now. Get him and his girl out of college football. I said it. I cried 2 tears in a bucket. You know the rest of it. Mark Stoops. That's going to be a tough one. Mark Stoops is a really tough one because, all right, you fire him, but who you going to go get? Like, what's a slam dunk hire? Who would want to go there? Because the resources aren't plentiful. You lost Vince Merrill, who was getting a lot of recruits to come here. He's now across town at Louisville. Who takes the job? Who's the slam dunk hire? Maybe John Gruden, because he said he'll die to coach in the SEC. I'm just not sure who you get to replace Stoops. I know things haven't looked good, but who do you get to replace him? I think sometimes you got to think about that. Shane Beamer. Yeah. As a head coach, you got to know when things aren't going right from an X's and O's perspective. And your offensive coordinator, Shula, can't offensive coordinate. He needs to go, Shane Beamer, or you're going to go. And, yeah, we know you have a job at Virginia Tech if you want it. But, yeah, you got to go, bro. Thomas Hammock, Northern Illinois, they've been competitive. I know they've lost some games they shouldn't have lost, but I don't think he should be fired. Greg Schiano, he loses a lot in the Big Ten. Well, we do know that. He's got a losing record in the Big Ten, but should he be fired? I'm not sure. Scotty Walden, UTEP. Jay Norvell is gone. Dave Dorian, NC State. There was some excitement there earlier on. They don't finish this year with a winning record. He needs to be fired. Joe Moorhead, Akron. You already know my answer to that. Chris Creighton, Eastern Michigan. Brent Venables should not be on there though. They're playing great. Only one loss this season, not at all. Jeff Levy, Mississippi State. That the city of Starkville will revolt if he's fired. And Jonathan Smith, I hate to say it because I'm a huge Jonathan Smith guy. Do I think he should be fired personally? No, but will he probably get fired? Probably. And that frustrates me, and it's frustrating. But let's go on to the week that was. Great week of college football this week, man. Outstanding week in and week out. Was it better than week 7? I'm not sure, and I don't know if I don't know if I'm being biased or what, but I don't know. Maybe I am being biased because some things ain't go my way this week. But was it a great week? Absolutely. Was it better than week 7? I don't know. I'll have to ponder upon that. I'll have to talk to Jalen about that. But Memphis really disappointed me this week. Really disappointed. They disappointed me for a couple of reasons. One, because I think we just set a college game day for USF versus Memphis. And that would have been so good for the G5 ranks. That would have been outstanding to be, on a national stage like that. And I think that ESPN would have got an opportunity to see how they do it at the G5 level. And them fans would have showed out. They'd have been loud. It'd have been a raucous environment, great environment, and they just squandered a huge opportunity. But now with them losing, Navy, of course, and they were ahead anyway of that conference. They're sitting there undefeated at 6-0. South Florida Tulane are 6-1. Both are undefeated in AAC play. But guess what? North Texas is still there in the thick of things. Memphis is still there in the thick of things. We have an outstanding conference of football that just does not get enough light. Shout out to my dog Judge Jalen in the building. What's good, Playboy? Like, you just look at this conference, and I don't know. Like, the Memphis loss really was the biggest head scratcher for me over the weekend. I just couldn't believe what happened in this game. And I thought they squandered a great opportunity. I think College GameDay would have had no choice to go there. And if they didn't, all college football media would have revolted. They didn't have any choice. And you started to see a revolt early, too, because a lot of people was anticipating this. And I know everybody's heart just melted the moment that they lost. Like, it was frustrating. But it was great for college football, of course, because we love upsets in college football. It was great for college football. So what does the ACC look like? Do you ever get so into college football games that you miss a game? Of course. Duh. Duh. Yeah, that happened this weekend, actually. Yeah. It happens all the time. Because, like, it depends on the day. Like, most times I'm watching 2 games at a time. Sometimes it's 3, depending on what it is. And then that's why I think we truly do need a college football red zone. But, yeah, sometimes you get so enamored with the game, especially if it's a game that you have a prediction on. Like, I'm sure you was, like, locked into the Notre Dame game, just like I was, but you wanting Notre Dame to win, me wanting USC to win. Of course, that happens. That happens a lot, brother. So the ACC, what do we have here in the ACC? Georgia Tech is the best team in the ACC. Louisville is going to be right there in the thick of things, man. I told you guys this in the offseason. I was high on Louisville, really high on Louisville. That's why the UVA game frustrates me even more now, because they handle business versus Miami. At CFB Nation, especially with me, Moon, and Jalen Dog, we got sayings, bro. We don't trust Crystal Ball. We don't trust none of us 3 trust Brian Kelly. We just don't. We have other members of CFB Nation that do trust Mario Cristobal and Brian Kelly. We just not them. I think D-Now don't trust them either. Let's get that straight too. So I don't know. The ACC, man, it's parity across all conferences. I think that's what you're going to see. But with Miami losing to Louisville and Louisville beating Miami, Tech is clearly the best team in the conference, but how do we assess UVA? That UVA went over Louisville is going to be important, and they're going to be right there in the thick of things. SMU, they're surging in the right direction. They're going to be there in the thick of things. Louisville's going to be there in the thick of things. Miami's still going to be there in the thick of things. You start looking at, I think the only 2 teams that are out is probably Boston College and Virginia Tech. But other than that, like, even Stanford got a big one this weekend. So parity across the conferences is what you're going to see. And that's why I want to go over and recap the week that was, the way that it is. Yeah, CJ Carr looked mad, but it happens. It was expected. Yeah, but yeah, their running backs took over that game, bro. Jadarian Price, huge kick return. Jamal Love was unstoppable that game. And then Lincoln Riley with the stupid reverse pass, bro. Like, your offense was moving up and down the field. You were just struggling in the red zone. Why do you even call that play, bro? My frustration with Lincoln Riley at this point, And I'm going to forgive them because USC will be there in the thick of things as well. The Big 12, Texas Tech, didn't expect them to lose this weekend. They've played with outstanding discipline, like I've said, the entire season. Them losing to Arizona State has brought back balance and parity in the Big 12. And once you start to look at it and truly evaluate these conferences, you start to see that, wow, a lot of these conferences have a strong middle class. The upper echelon you could probably minimalize to one or two teams other than the SEC, and the Big Ten will probably be in that conversation as well. But there's still a lot of college football to be played, and we're seeing, and cannibalization is on the way. I can't tell you what conferences that they're on the way. I believe the SEC may face cannibalization this year like they did a year ago as well. I'm not sure. But college football, there's no way any other sport can compete with this. But Big 12, let's get back to Big 12. Texas Tech losing opens it up for BYU and Cincinnati. They're both undefeated. They're 4-0 in conference play, right? And that's amazing. Texas Tech is now 3-1 in league play. Arizona State is still hanging around. Houston is still hanging around. TCU is still hanging around. Baylor pissed me off. I'm out on Baylor. They just can't play defense. That's why I'm out on Baylor. They can't play defense at all. And in a conference with so many elite quarterbacks, they just can't play defense, dog. And it's frustrating. Look at the Mountain West, bro. UNLV loses. Now Boise is in first place. And it's frustrating because I'm like, all right, Dan Mullen has brought that swag to UNLV, and I love the way that they play. I do believe they have balance, even though Jet is the biggest part of their offense. Jalen Thomas, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And Boise State's 3-0 league play. San Diego State is 5-1 overall. So you start to look at some of these teams, it's going to come down to the end. And I do think it's a 3-team race in the Mountain West. I still believe, even after that thrashing and called me stupid, and I felt this way last year, and I was stupid last year as well, I still think UNLV gets Boise State. But after that performance in Boise, Idaho, I'm not sure. And then SEC is just chaotic, bro. Lane Kiffin and Mario Cristobal last week in Masterclass Balance is restored in college football. Alrighty, it wasn't Lane Kiffin, though, dog. It wasn't Lane Kiffin. It was Pete Golden, dog. You can't say Lane Kiffin with them scoring on their, first 4 or 5 drives? They score a touchdown on. You play a little bit of defense, you win the game. It wasn't Lane Kiffin, though. And Lane Kiffin, you think Lane Kiffin headed to Florida? Might be. And then the MAC. What's going on in the MAC right now is just pure MACism. I think Buffalo, Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan are all 3-0 in league play. And all still sitting at 4-3. Like, there are so many 4-3 and 3-4 teams in the MAC, bruh. Like, of course, none of them are making or getting nowhere remotely close to a college football playoff. But for them, it's about bowl eligibility and going up to Detroit to play in a conference championship. And a lot of these teams feel like they have the ability to go do that. Like, CMU had an impressive win this weekend. So once you start to look at all of these conferences, see that the parity that we have across the sport, you see it in Con USA, you see it in the Fun Belt. Like, we have a lot of parity in this sport. And I think the great thing is that, teams are able to recruit even at the G5 ranks, and you have to be able to recruit when you guys got guys like Scudero. He's gone, bro. Some team somewhere is going to offer him a bunch of money. He's not staying at San Jose State. And I hate to say that because we have a great relationship with San Jose State. Not staying there. So I think this is the beauty of October in college football. We really started to figure out who's separating themselves from the pack. But I don't think we've seen anybody do it. I think the omissions or the anomalies to that is the Big Ten and what's going on with Ohio State and Indiana right now. But other than that, you look across all the conferences in college football, there's a great deal of parity. You said Auburn, Florida, Wisconsin should look into James Franklin. I agree with Auburn. I agree with Wisconsin. Florida, the slam dunk hire is Lane Kiffin. Penn State, the slam dunk hire is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, look at what he does with quarterbacks. I mean, you just have to look at, and I just said this probably a few minutes before you got in here, Jalen. What he does with quarterbacks is crazy. Like, when we go back to 2021, what he did with Matt Corral and that offense, who pretty much most of the season stayed in top 15 in passing offense and rushing offense. That's amazing. Jackson Dart, I didn't believe in him before he got there and played amazing under Lane Kiffin. And now, look at what Trinidad Chambliss is doing. And Austin Simmons, wherever Lane Kiffin goes, Austin Simmons probably follows along. So I think the slam dunk higher for any of these schools. Penn State, I doubt he goes there. What's happening in the world of the moon? Welcome. I think Penn State, Florida, and Auburn. The slam dunk hire is Lane Kiffin. You throw the book at him, you make him the highest coach in college football, highest paid coach in college football with all of the promises. Lane Kiffin is the guy to go get. He's absolutely the guy to go get. Ole Miss is playing outstanding football. My opinion hasn't changed about them losing this past weekend in UGA. And even though it's no more victories, their defense just didn't show up. Like, Georgia might as well went out there with just all 11 on offense, because Ole Miss defense clearly didn't play at all. You said Florida isn't a move up from Ole Miss at this point. Yes, it is, Jalen. Yes, it is. And I'm going to tell you why it is. Because no matter who you have at head coach at Florida, you can recruit. The resources are more plentiful in Gainesville than they are in Oxford. It's definitely a progressive move. It isn't a lateral move. The reason why Ole Miss is relevant, in my opinion, is because what Lane Kiffin has been able to do there. Does another coach have the same success at Ole Miss? No, the resources are, I'm telling you, when I started to look at resources in college football, nobody beats the great city of Eugene because they got Phil Knight backing them. But then once you start looking behind that, you start looking to Athens where the resources are plentiful. Well, to me, it goes Oregon. It goes Eugene to Tuscaloosa to Gainesville to Athens. Like, because we know that Billy Napier's problem wasn't recruiting. He's been able to put top 5 classes back-to-back years. The recruiting was the execution on the field. It was the X's and O's. It was his inability to get this offense to score. His inability to hold his players accountable. Like DJ Lagway. Imagine you trying to throw 5 interceptions for a Jeff Brohm coach team, bro. He cussed out Miller Moss for almost throwing an interception. He said, "What the F were you thinking?" And just chewed him out. Also chewed out the offensive, not an offensive coach, but an assistant head coach. He chewed out as well. Like, certain coaches not going to allow you to do that. Billy Napier, AR can make a bad play, just come right to the sideline. No repercussion. Same thing with DJ Lagway. Make a bad play, just come to the sideline. Nobody says anything to him. Like, there has to be accountability. And Lane Kiffin is the same way. But Florida isn't a move up. I don't agree with that. I don't know if you guys agree with that. Florida is definitely a move up from Ole Miss because the resources are plentiful and they're willing to spend money sometimes that isn't available in Oxford. Now, if they're playing great because of Lane Kiffin, though. So, yeah, I don't agree with that. And them doing the work to find a guy like Trinidad Chambliss was amazing this offseason. But I don't know. I just don't agree with that. Man, bench Isaac Brown for fumbling in the game was on the line. That's what I'm saying. Like, we go back to Jalen. How Jalen is always super nice and super professional when he speaks to these coaches. ACC media days. Hey, how you doing? How's your day been? Everybody, they almost look confused. They say, yeah, I'm doing pretty well. And he asked Jeff Brohm how he was doing. Jeff Brohm looked at him like, get to the damn question, bro. Like, that's just who he is, bro. Like, make no mistake about it. Like, that's just who he is. But this weekend of college football was amazing. Was it better than week 7? Tell me, Moon and Jalen, am I being biased by saying I'm not sure if this week was better than week 7, or I'm just mad some things ain't going my way? Hold me accountable. Tell me if I'm bugging. So, yeah. So, the week that was, week 8, I think is going to be a huge week as far as the standings in college football. And you start looking at the college football playoff, and if Memphis is able to win out and handle business and win the AAC, there's that one blemish on their record, how does that rank versus other teams? It was just you, man. Yeah, that probably was. It was an outstanding week of college football. I agree with you. All right, let's take a look at the week ahead. Not going to get into any previews, but the previews, shout out to everybody who's been watching this channel. The previews are doing numbers on this channel. I typically do somewhere around 5 or 6 previews a week. I'm going to up that to 14 or 15 this week. We're getting way more previews this week, way more uploads, and I think you guys are going to like that. Every week gets better than the last. Okay, I think that's fair. I think I was just mad at the Ole Miss game. The Notre Dame USC game frustrated me. I think that's what made me fall asleep before me and Jada couldn't even do the recap. I was so mad after that Notre Dame game, bro. I wanted to punch something. I'm not even a USC fan. I just don't like being wrong. All right, let's get to the week ahead. A lot of great games this upcoming week in college football. And ESPN is going, hey, Moon and Jalen, I got to ask you guys a question. I think that if Memphis won and if College GameDay wasn't at that Memphis and South Florida game in the great city of Memphis, I think there would have been a revolt. I think there truly would have been a revolt. I think there would have been a lot of us who said, we're not watching College GameDay this weekend, and I would have been one of them. I'm not watching it. I refuse to watch it because you guys didn't go to the right city. So now SEC College GameDay, because it's pretty much SEC College GameDay, other than the anomalies for big Big Ten games. But yeah, it'd have been a revolt. 100% been a revolt this weekend. But College GameDay did decide to go to Nashville for this Missouri and Vandy game. This is going to be a damn good game. And the sad part is one of these one-loss teams have to lose. I think both of these teams do have a chance to win the SEC. Didn't think I'd be saying that before the season starts. Eli Drinkowitz has done an outstanding job. Clark Lee, I think there'll be a couple schools that offer Clark Lee a job. He's done an outstanding job there. And I think, you know how we all used to say, like, Phil Jackson was the Zen master? I feel like in college football, Clark Lee is that. Yeah, UAB had other plans. They absolutely had other plans. But we look at this game. This game is going to be really dependent on how well Bo Perbula plays. Because the last 2 weeks, Ahmad Hardy has been shut down. Haven't heard much from him. I'm not even sure if he had over 100 yards the last 2 games cumulatively. I should probably look that up. But Bo Perbula is going to have to play well. He can't get in his head. That crowd is going to be raucous. And the crazy thing where we at with Vandy, we're now at a space in Nashville where we're not storming the field when we beat a team like LSU. They truly expected to beat LSU. That was crazy to me. I'm like, they're going to storm the field. They did. They said we expected it. It's business as usual, and that's amazing to see. Outstanding game there. UCLA plays Big Bad Indiana, and UCLA just continue to win ball games. Undefeated since they made both head coaching changes and changes at the offensive coordinator position. Really good matchup in Norman. 12 p.m. We got Ole Miss heading to Norman after a heartbreaking loss versus Georgia. Now, this is going to be the true test for Ole Miss for me and Lane Kiffin and his ability to call plays. Because Ole Miss, other than Washington, which I think they were Washington State also looked good versus UVA this past weekend. But this offense has just moved the ball up and down the field. JMU is certainly out for blood. So we look at this Ole Miss and OU game, it means a lot for the SEC. That's my second time saying that. The Missouri and Vandy game means a lot for the SEC. This Ole Miss game. So it'll truly be a matchup between Lane Kiffin versus Brent Venables. Both of them will be locked in. Brent Venables, his defenses are just immaculate. Even in the loss to Texas, defense was immaculate. Defense was immaculate this week versus South Carolina. This is a strength versus strength game. I can't wait to break this game down in a preview. We got USF in Memphis. How does Memphis bounce back from a loss? To me, I don't bet against Memphis when they're at home. I don't care who's playing. I don't care who's coming to town. I'm not going to bet against Memphis while they're at home. That's just not going to happen for me. It's just not going to happen. Outstanding game there. I think we should get some great quarterback play there as well. We got Kansas State versus Kansas. I don't know what to think about Kansas State at the moment. I also don't know what to think about Kansas. And I think that's just the confusion that this season of college football has brought us. I don't know what to think about either of these teams. And then we got the Hot Seat Bowl with Auburn versus Arkansas. Even though Arkansas already fired their coach, their interim coach, Bobby Petrino, is probably trying to fight for another shot to be Arkansas head coach or at least get a look from somewhere else. And then Auburn, you feel you should have been fired after this weekend. Right, yeah. Memphis don't lose at home. They wouldn't have lost. Yeah. Memphis about 25 if that game was at home because they just don't lose at home. So yeah, Auburn versus Arkansas, I think, is the hot seat, the hot seat of the Hot Seat Bowl, only because Bobby Petrino is trying to get that job there next year. I don't think he gets it. I think they go with a home run higher, but he's still trying to get it. And then Hugh Freeze should have been fired after last weekend. He hasn't been fired yet, but he needs to go. He's a great recruiter. Spend too much time on the golf course, and I defended him during the offseason. I did, but nah, your team's not playing to their capabilities. This Alabama-South Carolina game, Alabama should win pretty convincingly if they're able to play defense the way that Kane Womack wants to play defense. But in this daggone game of college football that we love so much, what if South Carolina just found a way to win that game, right? You know that it's going to be crazy in Columbia, South Carolina. It's going to be nuts. All right, BYU and Iowa State, for my money, is game of the week. For my money, is game of the week because this is where styles make fights. You have two overly aggressive teams. They have to go to Ames. It's going to be difficult to go to Ames, Iowa, and leave with the win. My upset pick of the week, I'm already calling it, is Iowa State beating BYU. Yes, I roll with BYU this week. It's time for them to lose. Iowa State will beat them this week. Texas A&M and LSU. How good are you, Texas A&M? I said a loss is coming your way, and while I do think you are the best team in college football at the moment, because I think you guys have more ways to win a game than anybody else in the country. Baton Rouge, Brian Kelly's job is on the line. Joe Sloan's job is on the line, and you guys got to go to Baton Rouge at nighttime. It's going to be crazy there in Death Valley. Texas A&M leave that stadium with a win, and we know that LSU struggles with quarterbacks that can scramble. They just have since Brian Kelly's been there. It'll be interesting. If Marcel Reed is in there and he's able to make plays and he's flirting with like 80 or 100 yards rushing, they should win that game. And then we got Michigan versus Michigan State. Another coach, Jonathan Smith, whose job is on the line as well. He's on the hot seat. He could very well lose his job after this game. Another show in the books. Had a lot of fun with this one. This 9 a.m. time slot is really interesting to me, to be completely transparent with you guys. I didn't mind it. I actually kind of like it. So I'm trying to get back to a structure. It's been kind of here, there, and everywhere the last few weeks. But the one thing you can rely on is the uploads. And that'll continue. We'll be uploading a lot. We'll be live tomorrow. We're starting our previews. My goal is 15, 16 previews this week. So maybe 4 an episode would be nice. So we got 4 more days. But maybe we might just go with 5. I don't know. I don't know how I want to do it, because I want a few days for the previews to develop the viewership that they can get. I shout out to everybody who joined and said something in the chat. Shout out to my dog Jalen. Shout out to my dog Moon. Appreciate y'all 100%. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive and advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, you all take care. We see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all have a good one. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
defensive
on
minds.
the
They have to be better on that side of the ball.